At roughly 2,700 years old, the Odyssey sits alongside Gilgamesh as one of the oldest surviving texts of human civilization. For centuries, classical scholars treated the epic as the work of a single poet. That changed in the early 20th century, when Milman Parry and Albert Lord analyzed the text's structure and proved it was an oral composition, built and refined over a massive period of time. Traveling professional singers, called ioidoi, used specific rhythmic remembering devices, repeated phrases like "wine dark sea" or "rosy-fingered dawn." These formulas allowed them to chant complex narratives to the accompaniment of a lyre, preserving intricate details of an ancient society across generations of complete illiteracy. Because of this oral evolution, the Odyssey doesn't document a single coherent time period. It acts as a stratigraphic record. It contains distinct historical layers stacked on top of one another: the glittering Bronze Age, the ash of systemic collapse, and the decentralized Iron Age. To decipher what is real within the myth, we have to look past the witches and man-eating monsters. We have to map the events of the narrative directly onto the archaeological and socioeconomic evolution of ancient Greece. We start at the bedrock layer. The hero Odysseus is a hereditary monarch among peers. He is a godlike warlord presiding over vast wealth, a socio-political status that fits perfectly into the peer kingship networks of the late Bronze Age. The search for the physical reality of these Bronze Age kings began in the 19th century, with early archaeological pioneers like Heinrich Schliemann. This image shows the monumental Lion Gate at Mycenae. Excavations here and at other sites revealed massive, wealthy palatial economies that perfectly matched the political landscape described in the earliest layers of the epic. This is the bronze Dendra panoply, an intricate suit of armor from the Mycenaean era. Artifacts like this verify the martial context of the texts. The epic preserves accurate memories of chariot-riding lords equipped in heavy bronze, cutting through ranks of infantry. We can trace this physical reality through the text. When Odysseus' son, Telemachus, journeys to seek news of his father, his itinerary maps directly onto confirmed excavation sites across the Peloponnese, like the foundation ruins seen here. This photograph captures the excavated foundations at Pylos, specifically a stone bathtub. In the text, Telemachus visits King Nestor at sandy Pylos. Archaeology proves a sprawling Mycenaean center existed exactly where the text claims, until its destruction around 1200 BC. But the Odyssey is primarily a maritime story. To accept this Bronze Age layer as historical, the expansive, long-distance sea travel described in the epic had to be feasible for Mycenaean sailors. In 1985, Tim Severin built an authentic Bronze Age vessel, rowing 1,500 miles from the Troad to Ithaca. He noted that by hugging the landlines, the journey was highly viable, requiring reliable sailing knowledge embedded in the text. We have hard archaeological data corroborating this maritime reach. The 14th century BC Uluburun shipwreck, found off the coast of Turkey, contained roughly 18,000 items originating from at least 7 different regions across the Mediterranean and the Near East. The foundational layer of the Odyssey accurately documents a hyper-connected, globe-spanning palatial economy. It was an era of extreme wealth and mobility, right before the entire system collapsed. In the 12th century BC, the interconnected palatial world of the Aegean shattered. Entire populations were displaced in a remarkably short window of time. The narrative reflects this immediately. In their first detour, Odysseus and his men are blown to the land of the Cicalnes in Thrace. They sack the city, kill the men, and attempt to take the women as captives. They only retreat when well-trained charioteer reinforcements arrive, losing 6 men from each of their 12 ships. This is a linear B tablet from the archives at Pylos. Etched into the clay are administrative records of women of Asia being brought in as manual laborers for the palace economy. The heroes of the epic were operating as hostile maritime invaders. Following the fall of Troy, the mighty Achaean host splintered into various independent fleets, pillaging coastal settlements to survive. King Menelaus experiences a similar post-war detour. He spends 7 years roving the seas, moving through Cyprus, Phoenicia, Libya, and Egypt, where he amasses a fortune and erects a burial mound for his murdered brother Agamemnon. This Egyptian relief depicts the invading maritime coalition known as the Sea Peoples. The 7-year path of Menelaus maps directly onto the historical vectors of these raiders and aligns with records of Mycenaean mercenaries fighting in Egyptian armies. These early narrative detours record a specific historical transition. The epic remembers the exact moment a rigid palatial society fractured into violent, desperate warbands roaming the Mediterranean. For centuries following the collapse, Greece experienced a severe regression. Literacy disappeared completely, long-distance trade routes dissolved, and communities became extremely localized and isolated. The middle acts of the Odyssey reflect this shrinking world. The monsters Odysseus faces are political and social antitheses to the Mycenaean ideal. The text characterizes the Cyclops through their total lack of civilization. They have no assemblies for making laws, they possess no legal codes, they lack shipwrights to build vessels, and their society operates entirely on localized, brute strength. The geography itself becomes hostile. The island of the Lotus Eaters represents the narcotic lethargy of a society losing its drive to explore, trading its cultural memory for stagnant isolation. The giant Laestrygonians, who smash 11 of the Ithacan ships, and the disastrous opening of Aeolus's windbag, externalize the intense anxieties of a society that has lost its navigational mastery and fears the unknown regions beyond its immediate shores. To find a path forward, Odysseus has to sail to the edge of the ocean and descend into the underworld, where he consults the shades of dead Mycenaean warlords like Agamemnon and Achilles. This descent into the underworld is an extremely ancient Indo-European storytelling motif. It parallels structural traditions found in Hittite and Mesopotamian cultures, grafted into the epic's journey because the structural formula demanded it. The presence of this ancient formula raises a question. How did detailed memories of Bronze Age wealth survive centuries of illiterate, isolated poverty? Excavations on the island of Euboea provide a clue. The Lefkandi Hieron, a colossal structure dating to around 1000 BC, contains graves filled with exotic goods and heirlooms hundreds of years old. It proves that isolated pockets of elite nostalgia and external trade persisted even through the darkest periods of the collapse. The bards operating in these isolated strongholds kept the stories alive. The fantastical middle acts serve as a psychological map of a localized society, terrified of the outside world, clinging to the memory of better days. As Odysseus nears the end of his trials, he washes up on the shores of the Phaeacians. They offer exemplary hospitality, lavish gifts, and safe passage home. Scholars recognize this society as a rose-tinted mythological memory of the Bronze Age utopia, perfectly preserving the old rules of guest friendship. This order sharply contrasts with the reality waiting for him on Ithaca. His palace has been overrun by over 100 suitors who are consuming his wealth and violently attempting to usurp his throne. The text refers to these suitors with the term basileus, meaning king. Their behavior, ignoring heredity and ruling by intimidation, reflects the might-makes-right political realities of 8th century BC Iron Age Greece, the exact period when the oral poem was finally being codified into a unified narrative. In an archery contest, Odysseus strings his great bow, shoots an arrow through 12 iron axe heads, and slaughters the suitors to reclaim his estate. For centuries, historians from Strabo in antiquity to Victor Berard tried to map this exact sequence of islands onto the physical Mediterranean. The vast majority of these attempts failed to find a conclusive geographical route. Even locating Ithaca itself remains heavily debated. Modern geological hypotheses, like Robert Biddlestone's work on the Paliki Peninsula in Kefalonia, suggest that ancient earthquakes may have physically altered the shorelines, separating landmasses that were once united. A strict geographical map fails because the Odyssey's geography is temporal. The narrative tracks the evolution of Greek society over 5 centuries, using the voyage to bridge the gap between historical eras. The Odyssey is the ultimate survival mechanism of a civilization that endured total systemic collapse. To function, the text requires the verified maritime reality and political structures of Mycenaean High Pings. It requires the traumatic displacement, piracy, and violent incursions of the Bronze Age collapse. And it requires the socio-political anxieties and localized power struggles of the emerging Iron Age. When you strip away the magic potions and the interventions of the gods, the epic reveals itself as a massive, 500-year historical dataset, compressed by generations of bards into a single, cohesive journey. Odysseus's decade-long struggle to reach home mirrors the survival of the stories themselves, the fragmented, hard-won memory of 500 years of Greek history.